Isolation has become a way of being, a way of keeping ourselves safe. But we as human beings need connection. The biggest problem in the world is loneliness. We are more disconnected than ever before. The connections we have are not real. As human beings, we need face-to-face communication, we need touch.
Life is complicated, just like suicide, you know? You can't give it one single narrative. A plus B equals C. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Suicide is so complicated, and I'm sure we can't even cover a small percent of it. That's life.
Sometimes when we are in a situation, it is as if we are the only one in it. And when we find ourselves in that situation, although in retrospect we may understand that it wasn't the end of the world, but at that point in time, it is as if your whole world is collapsing and you are under a microscope, and all you want to do in Xhosa is vleka mhlaba ndilele, like, can the earth just swallow me up?
The majority of people don't understand mental illness. It's the culture and context where you come from and the life experiences that you've had. The biggest issue that people struggle with is self-esteem, and self-love is something that we all struggle with.
So being friends with oneself is terribly important. And the more support we can give ourselves, the more we can handle it. People who have a habit of inner criticism, judging themselves, putting themselves down, when they're alone, it's terrible, because they're with this mind that is undermining them.
There are fates worse than death. Sometimes philosophers want to distinguish between the quality of life and the meaning of life. So the quality of life is how well your life actually goes, and then the meaning of your life, obviously that's a vast question, but would roughly be the idea, what is the purpose of your life? When we speak about purpose or meaning, there are different senses in which we can speak about that. One sense is a subjective sense. So do you feel that your life has purpose? Another is an objective sense, and that is whether your life actually has purpose.
They're very different kind of thoughts, but generally repetitive thoughts in the brain kind of set up a loop that go between deeper structures in the brain and the frontal lobe, which are the areas that affect judgment. And with these repetitive looping thoughts that we have, they kind of turn off the judgment centers of the brain. In somebody where your judgment is intact, you'll go, I'm not going to kill myself, it's not that bad. You'll shut it down. In somebody whose judgment is not intact, where those frontal areas are not functioning well, the thought just becomes entrenched and it goes round and round and round until it becomes irresistible, and then they act on it.
With childhood experiences, the brain gets like an imprint, and it sees the world through this imprint.
I don't think I feel as young as I should be feeling. I think society pressures you into thinking a certain way. You know, you look at Instagram, you look at Twitter, we look at all the social media that's around us, and it shapes us in how to think and see things in a certain way. We always put up what people want us to see. I know that because I do that. I think it's important to have in life a purpose, and to have some sort of direction that makes you feel alive. You know, you want to be a part of something, you want to be someone. You look at how influencers are these days, and it's too much like especially like on Instagram, too much about how you look and your beauty and all of that, you know. And I think most of where my problems start comes from me being in primary school as well. I was bullied a lot for being fat, like a lot. Everything just started going downhill a little bit, you know. I started feeling a certain way about myself, feeling that I'm not worthy to be here, feeling that I'm not smart enough sometimes. Some of my friends studying like hectic degrees, you know, BSc in this and science in that and whatnot, and you're like, I don't have a brain to do things like that. So it started to also get to me to make me feel like I'm utterly useless. Studying a certain degree is a measure of success. Getting a certain job is a measure of success. If you don't do those things, you're not successful. I've watched friends of mine's fathers be there for them, you know, matric dances, graduation ceremonies, whatever. I've never had a dad to even tell me like how to treat a woman properly, or, you know, how to be a man. The voices were always sort of telling me, or my thoughts rather were telling me that I have to be done, you know. And I think when I got into like serious relationships, that's when it escalated my thinking more. They left me. So I think all of that built me into not already trusting people. And when people fail me in general, or like betray me in some way, it makes me feel more and more worthless about myself. So at this point, all the things that are telling me is to start at least taking some kind of substance or something that can even it out. I think on the Saturday I just decided, yeah, I'm done. I left the house and I just took the pills and I drank. I don't know whether to say it's sleepy or dying. I don't know how to explain it, but I could feel like I was not in my hands. It was almost like the sun is setting, you're sort of setting. I was just, yeah, man. I felt like at that moment, I felt like, what am I doing? I went to a mental institution. You know, they teach you how to deal with like triggers, how to deal with how you're feeling, how to deal with what other people are feeling about you. It opened my mind to be like, I'm not alone. I've always said that in the Black community, people make you feel as if you're insane for, you know, being depressed or having anxiety. You feel like it's a problem and you need like to find religious help and whatnot. But sometimes depression is not even explained. It's a feeling. There's just days where you just feel like you don't want to wake up. There's days where I could sleep in my bed and I could do it for the next week and not want to wake up and eat. That's depression. You know, I can think negatively about something, or I can focus only on the negatives. That's depression. Depression is the opposite of me. I don't want to see people. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to do anything. What you're going through shouldn't be devalued. I don't know if that makes sense. Because there's some people who feel like, but dude, you live in a nice home. Why are you complaining? How I deal with other medications is because I've built those foundations and the tools in my head on how to deal with things. And that's why I don't really need it. And also, no offense to medication, it's great to a certain period because it almost like calms you down, but you kind of like lose your personality sort of. It's the weirdest combination. And I'm not saying it's easy to deal with triggers. It's not. It's very difficult, but I think you need to think more about the positive than the negative. And as soon as you get the positive, you get the answer. So mindset, if anything, mindset is important.
A person with suicidal ideation is very difficult to figure out because this person has shut down. They are not crying anymore. They're not making noise anymore. They've just decided that they want everything to be quiet. And what happens is that person's now sense of self, the person's sense of being evaporates. And they are then left with a shadow.
Because we can't see mental illness, or we think it's an illness of your brain, it's you, it's your soul that's cursed. We have all these different things that make it so complicated for us, for people to come out and say, actually, yes, I do have depression, or there's this shame, or this cloak of that we just don't talk about these things.
And I was on my way to Potchefstroom to do a talk to doctors in Potchefstroom when my husband phoned me and said there'd been an absolute tragic accident and I must come home. And my world changed forever. Adam was my beautiful boy who, at the tender age of 19, took his own life. He wasn't in the country when he took his own life. He had just written his mid-year exams. He was a first-year medical student, and he had gone to Israel with all his friends to celebrate. But let me tell you about Adam. Adam was a boy who had everything. We thought he had everything. Popular, clever, so accepted. Was a student leader at school, got his honours blazer, got a scholarship at Wits, got accepted into every single medical school that he applied to. But for Adam, it was never, ever enough. And if I look back in retrospect, he put so much pressure on himself. He had such low self-esteem, and he always wanted to be like somebody else and never, ever had that self-acceptance of who he was, and he had so much to offer. In this Instagram clip, they were making fun of Adam, and they made a claim that my son was gay. So for me, it's a world where you have makeup on, it's where you have a mask, and you have to be perfect. And that's what Adam saw. And when he compared himself to what perfection needs to be, he didn't fit the bill. Once again, he was never ever enough in his own eyes. He was never clever enough, handsome enough, funny enough, good enough in his own mind, because of what he sees on social media and what it is that you've got to portray on it. I just wish that he could have spoken about this, because he started spiraling at 15. And I think it's a troubling age. It's when your hormones are going out of control. He was being bullied, maybe, I don't know, I'm making an assumption. At that age, he was questioning himself, perhaps. And then something goes out on social media, and that was a trigger for him. And that's when he started controlling what he was eating, because that's all he could really control. That one bullying incident was Adam's trigger. And that caused his downward spiral. Because then you start believing what people are saying, and it just spirals down and down and down and down. And no matter what anybody else says, you truly believe that.
He put the pressure on himself, and it was, I guess, a stigma in some way, because he didn't act like all other males acted. One of the things he wrote in his note to me was, sorry, I didn't sit and watch rugby with you on the couch, because that's like a stigma. A boy's supposed to do that. Maybe some good will come out of this. Maybe males can start learning to express more feelings and talk about their feelings. So as long as we can do that, if we can do that and help another male, then Adam's life was worth everything.
And one thing that Joss and I did, we always felt sorry for Adam. And we indulged his every need, because we could see he was hurting. When Adam passed away, he left a note. And he shared with us information that I was not aware of. The why. And we had no idea. And he chose not to share a lot of his insecurities with the people closest to him, because he was so fearful that he would push them further and further away, which is the furthest thing from the truth. He spoke about a darkness, a feeling of depression, and that he can't go on anymore. He was tired of living this facade and hiding how he truly was feeling. He was questioning his sexuality. He never said that he was gay. He just said, I have question marks around my sexuality. And that was too much for him to bear. so he would be in a better place and he'd be at peace in leaving this world. In my mind, my interpretation of this is social media, about what is projected out there as being perfection. When you post on social media, it's when you look your best. Is it the real you? Is it the real you, or is it how you want the world to see you? Being a parent, there can be no worse loss than losing a child. Than to know that you lost a child by suicide. No one can ever prepare you for that. And yeah, I was worried about the stigma and how would I be judged. Being a little bit selfish. Not a good enough parent. How could I have allowed that to happen? So there definitely is a stigma to being a parent of a child that commits suicide. I'm never ever going to know the answer, and it's driven me insane because I'm a very concrete person. I mean, I'm a medical person, I'm a pharmacist, and I like black and white, and I'm never going to know. I just hope that he's no longer suffering and he doesn't have to go through this pain that he shared in that letter and that mask, because he was so tired.
Judaism doesn't condone suicide in any way. It's not something we advocate, it's something we strongly discourage. We'll do anything to convince somebody to not go on that journey. The Bible says not to spill one's blood. At the same time, there's the person. Because if you see suicide as a conscious decision, then it has one category. If you see it as a decision made in desperation for mental illness, it's a different category. Because it's not conscious. Nobody in the right conscious mind does something like this. It's unnatural. The natural way for a human being, no matter how hard life gets, is to want to live.
Bullying is basically hooking into your energy, because I can see you've got more energy than me. So I'm going to just tap, 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 tap on you, and I'm going to suck your energy out. And while I'm sucking your energy out, you have less, and you start breaking down slowly, slowly over time, or in severe cases where it's like violently.
We also need to understand the developmental stage in which a teenager is at, where everything is about self-concept, where everything is about peer approval. So when your peers then start, behaving as if they are attacking you, all you want to do is not be there. Even the friend that they thought they had is also either silent or participating. They're feeling alone.
We teach our boys from young that boys don't cry and that it is a weakness to go and ask for help.
If we want to open to our feelings, then we breathe more deeply. And more shallow breaths prepare us for action. It's a sort of fear or flight breath. Deeper breaths are calming. Moving the diaphragm when we breathe, pulling it down, actually gives a message to the brain to calm down.
We don't love enough, we don't show love, we don't express love. We're such a closed off society. Now with COVID, it's terrible. You can't hug anybody anymore.
So things that you can do every single day, and it could be from ways to de-stress and relax, mindfulness, breathing techniques, doing things that you enjoy, adding yourself to your to-do list.
If I change the thoughts and not necessarily into happy thoughts, but more rational thoughts where I believe that I can cope with life. I'm not a failure, I've made some mistakes, but I'm not a total failure, then my feelings will eventually change into perhaps more neutral first, and then into being more happy and at peace.
Some of the researchers from Imperial College London, for instance, and Johns Hopkins have published papers on how people have a value system shift after psilocybin, and it's largely because they feel a sense of connection.